So here's a little bit about the basics of Entrelac. Entrelac is interlocking triangles and rectangles, and it can be done all kinds of different ways, and it can be done in different sizes. So you can have lots of triangles out at the beginning for your base and only a few rectangles up, or you can have only a few triangles and lots of rectangles depending on the size and shape you want your garment to be. The first thing we need to learn with Entrelac is this first triangle here. That's number 1. Then you're going to repeat that as many times as you want for the size and shape of your garment. Then the next thing we're going to learn is how to do this left leaning or the left edge triangle. So that's number 2. We'll learn how to do that. Then we start on a rectangle. That's number 3. Then we repeat number 3 as many times as we need to until we get to the right edge triangle. So that's number 4. Then we have a left leaning rectangle. That's number 5. And we do as many of those as we need according to our pattern. And then we've already done this. That's a repeat of what you did in 2. This is a repeat of 3 here. This is a repeat of 3. And then you have a repeat of 4 here, the right edge triangle. And then to finish, you have the sixth part that you need to learn. So those are the basics of how it works. What you're going to be wanting to do with your Entrelac is know what your magic number is, because each one of these triangles is going to have a number of stitches. Let's say it's 7. That would be your magic number. So if you want this, if you see an Entrelac pattern that you like, a garment that you like, what you really need to know is what's your magic number, how many triangles form the base, your needle size, and your yarn weight. And then you can pretty much recreate anything that you see if your gauge is right and you like your fabric. So that's all up to you. So let's get started learning how to do triangle number 1. So here we are. We're going to start with our Entrelac triangle number 1. And in Entrelac we go across in rows. So we're just going to start with triangle number 1. And to do that, I've used a sample with my magic number of 5. So I have 5 stitches, and I have them separated by markers just because that's visually easier for me. Then I know exactly where I am, and if I'm having a conversation or I get interrupted, I don't lose my way. So I start with a knit 1 and a knit 2. And then here's the fun part. Without turning and with the front of our work facing us, we purl back. See my video on purling with the front of your work facing you. We purl back 1, and then when we have 1 stitch left, we slip that. And what we're doing when we do that is create an edge so that later, when we're doing a triangle, later on the other side, we can pick it up easily with a nice edge that's very visually easy to find. Then we do that again. We knit 1, knit 2, and then we knit the 3rd one. And I'm just knitting through the back loop because I like that. On the first one it's easier. And now we have 3 on, and we purl back without turning our work. We purl back to the last stitch, and then we slip that. Whoops. Then we knit 2, 3, 4, and now we're ready to purl back till the last stitch. You guessed it, we're going to slip it. And see that pretty edge? It just makes the nice finished edge for picking up later. Now we knit back again. 4, and then we knit our last stitch in this grouping. And we've got our 5 stitches done in our first little triangle. Now, if I wanted to make this bottom triangle bigger, I could purl back and then knit back just to give it more depth. I'm not going to do that for the purposes of this demonstration because you can choose to do that on your own, and you know how. When we remove our marker, if you're using one, then we just start doing the same exact thing. We knit 2 on our new triangle, and then we purl back and slip the last stitch, the first one that we knitted. Then we knit back, three, and then we purl. And then we slip the last one. Now we knit again. We're just doing exactly what we had done before. 2, 3, 4. Now we're going to purl back 3 and then slip 1. Purl, 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 slip. Now we're getting a nice little triangle there with a nice edge. Knit back, 2, 3, 4, and here we are at our last one, 5. There we go. Now we have 2 little matching triangles. And in this wool, they're not getting very wonky, but in some yarns, they tend to get really curly and they look very odd. Thankfully, this doesn't, but they're supposed to look odd, so that's okay. Now we're on our last set of 5, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. We're going to knit 2. Oops. And then we're going to purl 1 and slip 1. Then we're going to knit 3, and then we're going to purl back 2 and slip the last one. Then we're going to knit 4, and you can see that triangle developing. Then we're going to purl back 2, 3, slip the last one, and now we're going to knit 2, 3, 4, 5. And you are magically finished with your 3 5-stitch triangles. How's that? It's not that hard. Join me for my next video as we go over the next step in Entrelac. And that will be those triangles which we finished, and we're going to go on to the left side triangle number 2.